Hey, that's what I've seen in TV shows. I haven't actually. Okay, don't think I've actually tried that. Here we go. Spam the shures because those always work.
Dude, okay, it's just not working.
Micah, dude, how about those Vikings?
Did they win today? I didn't even watch the game.
Nice.
Wow, Micah doesn't even like Vikings. Micah doesn't like Vikings, dude. Oh,
It worked.
oh, frack! I am so screwed, dude. Emmanuel Sanders better score me like 30 points tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm kind of screwed.
Yay,
Got the
Vikings
match
won. Let's go.
But can Aaron Rodgers like actually get me some points for a game because he's been kind of botching his last, I don't know, all games.
He didn't get you points
Nice.
today.
Well, he got me 23.7. I mean, compared to like Patrick
Kyler Murray.
Mahomes and like,
Kyler Murray.
okay, how many did Kyler Murray?
He probably had
25.7.
a frick ton, dude.
He had 25.76. I mean, that's good, but like nowhere near as much as Josh. Who's the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills again? He's been doing pretty good. Yeah, he's good. Like he's probably the best quarterback right now in fantasy.
No, it's Kyler Murray.
Nah.
Nah, it's Patrick
Honestly,
Mahomes, bro. Come on.
Okay, here's my prediction for Super Bowl. Buffalo Bills and the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs might.
Well,
Make
that's gonna be hard considering they're both in the same conference. So.
Oh, sorry. I'm not as familiar with conferences again on that.
Yeah, it'll probably be the Cardinals.
How about are the
You want-
Buffalo Bills?
I like how
What?
you laughed at that, but the Cardinals haven't lost a game all year, so.
Cardinals are good this year.
Yeah, but the Cardinals aren't like they're not the
we have the
best.
best record in the end. Yeah, we are. We literally are. Best record in the NFL. Only undefeated team left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a true story, dude.
Carlos, do you have your Audacity set up?
Yeah. Do you need me to start recording?
Well, I
Ryan
don't
have his
know.
Audacity set up?
No, he's using his phone. So
Of course he is.
yeah, I know.
Like
He doesn't-
Starter.
Bro, you don't even need an RTX for that.
I literally asked Micah if you want me to like download it. He was like, no, and I'm like,
Well,
okay.
What, Micah?
I said, here's what I said. I said, if you want to have better
Literally
sound
what
quality, then do Audacity. And he said, do I need it? And I said, not necessarily. And he said, okay.
You should have
No.
said that he needs it.
So how are we gonna record Ryan's voice?
it. I think Mike is just gonna record it.
Yeah, I was going to record Ryan's voice.
Wait, but wouldn't that technically record me and Legend's voice
Yeah,
too?
but you guys will have the Audacity too that I can just put over the top.
Ooh, that's gonna
Well,
sound
like-
terrible.
No, it's
It's not a lot of
not.
work.
If you
Good
sync it up
look, and-
perfectly, it sounds
Dude,
good.
No,
Dude.
I'm sure if you can do it right, it'll sound
It's gonna
good.
be echoey. I
Not if you
swear
do
it'll
it
be
perfect.
echoey.
Yeah,
Mm.
Micah, you gotta be perfect. You gotta be no mistakes, all right? No mistakes.
Legend, you
It's
might
literally Micah
want to...
Reeves. Like, of course, to be perfect.
Legend, turn up your mic a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Legend, you're so
Yeah, all the
quiet. I
way
can
up.
like not hear you at
I'm not
all.
gonna cap to you. It's probably fully up. Let's see, man.
How about you go into your settings and you go to voice and
Man.
video and then
How's
you
this?
No, man.
it sounds
No,
the
man.
same. It sounds
Exactly
the
the
same.
I
same.
don't
man.
know how to turn it up, dude.
Dirt.
Okay, what microphone are you using?
How's this? How's this?
Oh wow,
No, man.
it's definitely louder. Yeah. Oh, good job. Good
I
job.
went lower, Legend.
Dude, I don't know what to do. It's literally all the way up. Like,
Oh, there. That's sick. Okay.
Well, good thing good thing you're using
do I just have to
Audacity.
talk louder?
Yeah, man.
Well, actually, I think just speak as, loud doesn't always mean annoying. I mean, I know the difference. I know the difference between loud and annoying, and you're not. You won't be
You're
annoying
not.
if you're loud.
I
You're just
appreciate
annoying.
that. Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, wow. Oh, I wasn't saying.
off.
Sorry. Please don't.
I'm off.
Dude, come on,
Please
man.
don't.
Sorry.
We have to
Sorry,
talk about the problems with society, man.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we should
Legend, we're
probably
like 42 minutes late because of you.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah. Wonder who that is, huh? I really, Whoever could that be? Trash.
Trash. Nice. Nice.
Kirk equal MVP.
Oh my gosh.
Crap, what's the Vikings? I think they're 2-3. 2-4.
3-3.
Oof.
Nah, Vikings are totally 3-3. They're
Dude, we playing tennis now?
3-3.
Vikings are totally 3-3. Ah, yeah.
They're-
Legend.
I told you they're
6-7.
3-3 like 30
6-7,
minutes
6-0.
ago.
That's a tennis score. Legend.
Yeah, man. That's what I was going for.
What are you mean about it, dude?
Dude, it wasn't.
Why are you hating, bro?
Dude. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. It's actually a little better right now. I don't know.
I'm just gonna move it closer to my face. How's this sound?
Better.
Okay. I'll just keep it on my lips.
Stop.
Please don't stop.
Aight. Should we start?
Yeah, go ahead and intro us, Micah. I already
Oh,
did
man.
the intro last time.
Oh, wait, let me start my recording.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, me too. Okay. Okay, I think I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, ready?
Mhm.
Nice. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Apathetic Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Reeves, with co-host Carlos D. Today, we are talking about Problems with Society Part 2. We have two special guests today. The first of which is Legend Morris. How you doing, Legend?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing good. Second one, our second special guest today is Ryan Frampum. How you doing, Ryan?
Good, how about you?
All right, so Problems with Society. It was suggested by Ryan Frampum.
That was such a weird way to kind of. You didn't even say if you were good or not to Ryan. Ryan's
yeah,
like,
Dad's just waiting.
I didn't hear him.
yeah. No, it's fine. Go ahead and say what you're saying, Micah.
Okay,
You're good. I'm just giving you crap.
so Ryan was the one that suggested that we do Problems with Society. Ryan, what do you think the problem with society is?
What is the problem with society?
What is a problem with society?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many social issues right now. It's kind of hard to choose which one is the definitive one. But what's one that you had in mind? Because I mean, you're the one who came to us with the idea that we should talk about the problems with society. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'd say one of the biggest problems we have in society is taking everything we hear and acknowledging it as truth. Like society doesn't decipher real truth enough, and they don't search for truth on their own, but they rely too much on different things for truths. So, like their friends, for example, like whatever authority is telling them that this thing is real, they rely on it, or like social media as well. If they see someone post about something, and not necessarily political, but political is a good example of it. Like people take sides on a political spectrum because they believe a certain side, and they've heard people talk about a certain way, but they don't actually go and decipher the true side for themselves. They rely on other people. So that's kind of creating a little bit of a division in our country because people aren't searching for truth as they should. I mean, that's probably my biggest, what I see is one of the biggest problems in society.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of people don't really think for themselves. I would say they kind of let other people tell them what they should believe by looking at news and stuff instead of actually going out and figuring out the truth for their own.
yeah, I'd say today there are more followers than there are leaders.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
so many people. I mean, I used to be kind of one of those people. I would just without reading a full article on something, I would just read the title of whatever article about whatever topic, and I would immediately think, "Oh yeah, that's totally happened. Yeah, yeah, I knew that. I know better." And I think it just has to do with a lot of ignorance and pride within ourselves, just trying to be quick to jump to conclusions or like go full on public and supportive about, for example, either right or left, instead of truly like, just taking a breath, look at each side, whether political, whether spiritual or whatever, and constructing your own viewpoint on that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I don't know. And I think social media is like probably like one of the biggest things that drive that separation between like deciding for your own truth and and not. Like I think that the more, first of all, we're on social media, I think is the more that we, I would say, it's like put it more as like a priority in our lives a little bit. Like the more we're on it, it kind of becomes more of us in a way.
Yeah.
And a lot of our opinions come from that, So like if you're spending more of your life on Instagram or whatever, you're then spending less of your life out actually doing stuff and deciphering truths for yourself, and you're having less of those real conversations with people, but rather you're kind of like just gathering that info on the one side, and then also like, I don't know if you guys ever watched like The Social Dilemma, but like once a social media knows your side, it keeps putting information in front of you that supports that side, so that then you're on, that side, or you're on social media more often. So that's then driving that opinion that you've been given, right? It's driving it more and more, and that way, it's driving you away from people that don't have the same opinion as you. And that's kind of like that separation I was talking about a little bit. Like that's the division we see in our world is because of that.
Kind of going back to what you said on The Social Dilemma, didn't we actually watch that as a class?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
For what was that called?
seminars or something with
Nice.
Mr. Annis.
Yeah.
Yeah, good old Mr. Annis.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting to say the least. The one thing that like caught my eye in that video was how social media caused suicide rates for women to go up a lot. Like I thought that was kind of unreal. I mean, I kind of assume like I always just make assumptions about stuff, but when things are like presented to me on that scale, I was like, wow, I mean, that's insane. But yeah, I mean, kind of going back to what you said about social media, um, it kind of has a way of dividing us a bit more. It's just, I think in social media, there are more factions. There are different groups that are just kind of huddled together, just in like recluses and just sucked up in their own viewpoints instead of instead of taking the initiative of going out and actually talking to people who don't have the same opinions as them. And I will admit to myself, I mean there's not a ton of people that I met that have different like opinions about me politically, but in terms of like other forms of entertainment like movies or music or sports, I mean that's kind of like I think that's a good place to start. Uh so if you want to start trying to get comfortable getting uncomfortable with sharing your opinions and being okay with disagreeing with those and others disagreeing with you, kind of start with lighter topics like a more like entertainment, like pop culture stuff that isn't like a super big social issue or anything.
I like to
I
pose a
think.
question. Oh no, go ahead, Legend.
Go ahead, Legend.
Are you, all right. I just
I'm
think with
sorry.
like social media, we're presented information in like such small bites. You know what I mean? So when you see a post on Instagram, you're not gonna see the entire article in that one box. You're just gonna see the
Hmm.
headline, and whoever writes the headline kind of dictates what you think about that topic and all the information that you gain about it. since
Yeah, and
like
it
the
depends on
format of
who wrote
social
it
media.
too,
Yeah.
right? Like who's posing it a little bit. Like it's that authority thing I was talking about before. Like there's a difference between just one of my friends posting something on social media versus like someone that I look up to a lot, whoever it may be.
Hmm.
And also people who you're not very fond of. I mean, all of us, always have those people in our lives that, we're not super fond of or get really annoyed by. And so, right off, we see a new post from that certain individual, we kind of like scoff at it or whatever and be like, ugh, like that person, like I'm so much better than that person, and just being so quick to judge all the time. But on the flip side, you see a picture of like one of the boys, you're, spamming the likes and, spamming the hearts and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to pose that question. And the question was kind of why are we so afraid in our society? Like, where did that start? That fear of disagreement, and like, I don't know. Like, some people like me aren't afraid of disagreement at all. They're not afraid to like pose their own side, and they're not pushed around. But other people like can kind of be pushed around their ideas because they're afraid of that confrontation or disagreement. And kind of like, where does that come from? Do you guys think?
Um,
Well, I think that wait, you know what? You go ahead, Micah. I'll go after you.
well, I would say that I'm not sure about in the past, but I know nowadays it's all about, like the cancel culture thing, where you can have a disagreement, and if the majority of people disagree with you, then they can just push you off of a platform, kind of like Donald Trump when, he wasn't president anymore, and Twitter and basically everybody just decided to ban him. So, I mean, he didn't necessarily do anything wrong. He just had a different opinion and a different point of view and a different mindset of the people who ran those companies. And, they have the freedom to push them off of those platforms, but it just kind of caused everybody to kind of realize that, there's powerful people and also, a majority of people on those platforms that don't necessarily agree with everything you say. And if you say something that upsets them or something that they don't agree with, then they just kind of get rid of you and then silence you just so easily nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of remember back in the day, during election times, and usually it'd be like a one day of election, but like it seemed like this election went on for like a solid month, just because results were still like coming in, and a lot of questionable things were happening. But I still remember Trump just tweeting out because who wouldn't follow Donald Trump on Twitter, of course. Uh, he was just tweeting stuff like, "Oh, the election was rigged" and stuff like that, and just making so many public statements. And it's like all that censorship on him was just a complete impeachment of, his constitutional rights of speech. And I think that's like another issue with the social media platforms is, since it's technically their company and you're using their platform, I mean, legally, they have a right to silence whoever they want. And, it's unfortunate because I think, everyone's opinions are, valuable to them. And so I can't imagine like just how terrible it feels just being tossed down like off to the curb and just completely silence, or as Micah said, cancel cultured at the time.
Well, here's my thing with that, like whole First Amendment thing with like the social media companies. I have like the opinion that since these social media companies like control all of the speech and like they're really the public square and main place for discussion, eventually there has to be some sort of legislation that protects people that use it. You know what I mean? Since
Oh, I totally
they're
agree.
the
Yeah, yeah.
since they're the people that our ideas are hosted on, they shouldn't be able to like just take down certain things that they disagree with.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a line that needs to be crossed. There's the line between like actual like bad statements that were made, in recent times. And I'm talking about recent times. I'm not talking about things that people emailed, um, like the Saints coach, was that the Saints coach who got
Raiders.
like
Raiders.
the
Raiders.
Raiders coach, um, who got fired just because of like just emails he sent, and that was like from years ago. And that's another issue I see with cancel culture is we people are getting canceled because of statements that they said before that society didn't care about then. And it's like all of a sudden people of a newer generation are finding those statements now and just bashing that person as a reason to like tear them down and fill them up with negative press. I mean there's many examples I could bring up. Kevin Hart lost a job at the Oscars a few years ago. Eminem got silence on TikTok basically because back in like the early 2000s, his songs had a bunch of lyrics that were quote unquote controversial back in the time. I personally like some of his songs, but that's just kind of how how it is back in the day, and it's very unfortunate how things that people do in the past, regardless if they were bad statements or not, are still like being pulled down on them like a chain, like strapped to their ankle or something. It just feels like those people can never avoid consequences for their actions, with some of the consequences not even being necessary from the start.
So going back to what Legend said on the um, social media being able to silence people, I guess, and it might be a restriction of the freedom of speech. Do you think that there should be a government-ran social media platform that nobody can be silenced on? Because places like Facebook and Twitter, um, they're private companies technically, so that they can take users off. But should we have a government-ran social media that nobody can be taken off because it counts as part of our freedom of speech?
I don't think that would be good. I don't think the government should have any sort of like state-run method of like getting information out.
Mhm.
Just because I feel like that can be kind of like a. Well, I mean, I guess they already have like Twitter accounts for the president and stuff that's run by the government and the White House.
Yeah.
But I just feel like their own platform would kind of be, um, I don't know. Maybe they
Would
should.
it bring us
But
together or would it further divide? Like would freedom of speech be a beneficial thing for America in general? Or do you think like free speech like that would cause, I don't know, havoc in America?
like, do you mean
Um,
just completely unregulated, like free for all, say whatever you want,
Yeah, he's saying
Micah?
like
Well, it would be like
sorry.
how we have the postal service, USPS. How you can
Hmm.
send letters on USPS because it's ran by the government. It would be kind of like that. It would just be like, it would be like Twitter or something like that, but just government ran, and there's nobody like head in charge that can just take out people. It's just kind of like an open thing, I guess. I don't know.
Hmm.
well, if it's government, I mean, especially with how the government is now, I mean, to this day, I don't think the government is giving enough people freedoms. I mean, we're already having to deal with like vaccine mandates in certain places, not in Montana yet, thank goodness. But yeah, I mean, right now, I think a lot of the governments, especially the federal government, are being like a bit over controlling. And that's also partially thanks to Joe Biden just brain deadly signing executive orders. But anyway, I do like your idea, Micah, of like people being able to go on there and just say as they will on like any platform. The thing is, I wouldn't make it like a government created thing. I would rather have it be some independent company by itself that's not owned by anything else like Google or like Facebook or whatever since
Well, that's basically
eh,
just Twitter, because Twitter is their own company. They're not owned by anybody else. They're their own
yeah, but
independent.
Twitter doesn't have what you're describing.
Yeah, I
So
know.
basically like a Twitter 2.0 is kind of what I was thinking a little bit. And as much as like I hate to admit it a little bit, all statements that people make, good or bad, none of them are technically illegal. I mean, you could say like a lot of really bad like stuff and
Well,
very vulgar things online, but that person still technically has a right to silence them, but because people also have a right to respond, they can then rightfully respond to that, to like someone saying something really horrible, and instead of the company themselves silencing them, it's people on the good side uniting together to kind of stop whatever nonsense another person is saying instead. So it's like kind of more control that the people do than just the head of the company or the government. But what were you saying, Micah?
when you said that I don't, you said that you don't think that there's um, stuff that people can say that is illegal. Like you can say something and it won't be illegal. I think I'm not sure about this, but I think that if you say something like "I'm gonna kill you" and you're like dead serious, or over a phone call or something like that, I think the police can use that against you. But I'm not sure if it's like necessarily
That is
illegal.
that is definitely interesting. I people like deal with threats all the time, and I think, I mean, yeah, it definitely is an interesting thing you bring up. Because like I mean, I haven't been personally threatened or anything like seriously, but like, of course, whenever you're playing an online game like Call of Duty or whatever, you always deal with those people online who are just kind of trolling or whatever and like kind of joking. But if what you're talking about is like people, like let's say hypothetically, this never happened to me at all. I'm on Twitter 2.0, let's just call it that. And I all of a sudden am getting like messaged by some angry person, hi, I'm gonna like come over to your house and like murder your family or whatever. Um, I think some things to take into consideration is, one, is your personal info out there? Uh, Two, do they know? I mean, have you been associated with anything related to that person? Do you know anything about them? Because I mean, even though people may be serious as if like someone may genuinely want to hurt you, a lot of times, as long as you don't like reveal too much of like your personal information, like obviously don't reveal like your home address. Like I don't really, I don't think I've publicly revealed like what city I live in or anything, which I probably never will because like what's the point in that? But but still, I think we need to like take necessary precautions, and if those precautions are not are not working, and there's actual like evidence or like some kind of proof you can take to the authorities that hey, someone's gonna come over to my house and like try to kill, like mess with me, mess with my family, then I think that's kind of where you draw the line of that's illegal. So I don't think saying that stuff is necessarily illegal. I think there's kind of the line between saying the action and doing the action.
Ryan, your dad's a lawyer. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, yes, my dad is a lawyer, but I don't know if I know everything because I don't know. I was kind of like going to go back to like Legend's original question a little bit about the governmental um, social media. And when we first posed the question, I kind of agreed on like what you said. Like there's that private company, right? So as much as we can say like it's unfair for Instagram or Facebook, whatever, to like to ban certain things and to allow certain things is unfair. It is a private company, But like, is a social media platform in that way necessary for free speech? Like, is it nowadays the most effective way to like say your opinion, do you think?
Yeah, I think
So it's the
so.
most effective. Is it a good thing then though to completely have free speech on both sides? Like I know free speech
Yes.
is like a given. I mean, is that like what's gonna like bring us? I mean, I kind of agree with that. Like I think that free speech and like the ability to have free speech is a good thing, but I think
You're
some people would.
you're asking if that will actually benefit us, is what you're implying, right?
Yeah, yeah, because I think some people would say no, and I would say yes. I mean, I think free speech is a necessary thing. Like to the very first question I posed about like is it like finding like the truth of matters? I think free speech is the way we go about that, and I think the problem with the social medias we're given now and the things we do in our society is that we're not giving ourselves the ability to have a true free speech. You know, like
And
all of our speech is directed in a certain way, or speech is directed at us in a certain way.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we're hit with like falsehoods or anything, and in our mind we still see that as truth. I mean, like it's like you said, like what can bring us to the truth at that point? I think people like just talking to and meeting with other people who actually have the real information and know the real truth. I mean, you're just willing to just listen to them. I mean, I think that's just like I think being able to just not think inwardly and just think more outwardly and more open-minded towards what other people say, you'll hopefully be able to know what your truth is and what you think. Because not, in terms of, my version of truth and some, for example, like Joe Biden's version of truth, just to throw an example out there, I mean, it's like night and day. Biden wants to like throw more mandates and controls and everything. If I was the president, I would take off all mandates. Like because I don't believe in that. I'm more constitutional than Joe Biden is, but Biden thinks that by can containing everyone and once again trying to still max up vaccinated people even though they're safe, well, at least most likely safe statistically wise, it doesn't guarantee their safety. You know, it's just sometimes we clash with those like other opinions that are like day and night to us. And I think for us to really know the real truth, as you would like to call it, we just need to not get caught up in our own world and actually be more open-minded towards others, regardless if we agree with them right off the bat or not. Let's just sit down, listen to them, see what they have to say. We don't have to agree with it, but we just gotta listen. That's all I think the solution is for that.
I don't know
Yeah.
why. Ryan, did you have something you want to say?
Nope. I just agree.
All right. I don't know why people get so offended when someone doesn't have the same opinion as them, and
Thank you.
they get so. I don't really want to say violent, but it's just so aggressive so quickly, and I don't understand why people are like that nowadays. It's just
I
it
think I
seems.
honestly, I think I honestly know, and it's like I've already said it. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it is 100% because of social media and like and
Absolutely. Yeah.
it feeding you the information that you want to hear. Because it's almost like once you're always being fed your own side, the other side seems so wrong to you and so like absurd that the people that believe those sides almost like become your enemies in a way. Right. Like it's so like you're fed this, fed it, fed it. It's not like you like thought about it and you like, okay, yeah, that's right. Like and like really deciphered it and talked to other people about it. It's a constant thing where you're never hearing the other side. And you're always kind of like being given that one side. And so when you hear the other side, I feel like you're much more offended and opposed to it because you just think your side is so correct. which is hypocritical because you haven't even most of the time studied your own side, to figure out if it's really right or not.
I would
Yeah.
totally agree with you that there, Ryan. Legend, did you want to say something?
No, I was just agreeing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and and sadly, like that whole like, like you said, Mike, people getting offended super easily. Um, the I think the one thing about like spreading hate on social media is that it's so easy to do, and there's almost little to no consequences of that. Because I mean, right now I could like go on like Instagram or Twitter or whatever and just type on my keyboard behind my screen just something like I'm offended, blah blah blah, and that's not gonna physically affect anyone. It's just me just being like kind of a jerk just for the sake of being a jerk. And, sadly, that attitude, that mentality has, spread wide across throughout all forms of media, sadly, and even forms of media that I like too. It's more than just politics, even though like political stuff, like that's probably like the highest um talked about thing and like the most and like the one topic that people get like easily offended of. And it's more than just like social issues like racism or sexism or like any or like cancel culture or anything like that, but it also involves standard pop culture media, like movies or games or whatever. It's like having an opinion that not that someone doesn't agree with, is like so offensive to them to the point they will actually have the will to type on their phone or their keyboard about how offended they are about someone's opinions who is different than theirs just for the sake of doing it, and it's so accessible for them too, despite the fact that if everyone had the same opinions about everything, then I mean, there would be no form of diversity whatsoever, and there would be no learning or growing or any kind of teachability to anyone. And I'm trying to think of like any recent times where I've not necessarily encountered like someone physically because I don't really speak publicly on social media, but I remember at the time when the new uh I think it was like the new Star Wars episode 9, and during when that movie came out, there was a lot of controversy like just on like Twitter and stuff. There were people who said they loved it, it was the best Star Wars movie ever, and then there were people like me who like absolutely hated it and thought it was an absolute monstrosity. And then it started like this whole social media war of just people sending like hateful stuff to each other just because they have an opinion of a movie, just a movie, a fake, fictional characters movie. Like it's just absolutely insane to me how far, like just how far this act of negativity and offense has spread around.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
I feel like we've done this topic. Do you guys want to move on to a different problem in society?
Sure.
I'm down. Yeah. Soon as I actually think of one, because I can't think of any right now.
Don't
Legend, do you have
worry.
any
We could
issues
edit
you
stuff.
think you can think of?
Who?
I think Micah, were you saying something?
No, I wasn't.
Oh. Um. Yeah, I don't really have any off the top of my head here.
It's like I said during the last podcast, usually this would be the time where Mr. Tinkham would chime in and, you know, bless us with his big brain knowledge and all, but we're kind of on our own with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
I can't think of anything like socially that we could like talk about problem wise. I mean, you want to just talk about other like fun stuff, I guess, for a change or whatever.
Well, I don't know. What are you thinking, Carlos?
Um,
I'll talk about whatever you
like
want, Carlos.
what am I thinking right now? Actually another I just thought of something. I want to talk about how COVID has affected work ethic a little bit. Yeah, does that sound
Yeah,
all right?
yeah.
Okay. So obviously, as many of you know, when COVID happened, I think it was like March of 2020 when it spiked up and everyone was like quarantined at all. The shutdown happened worldwide pretty much. And, we were all living at home doing our online classes. I know the amount of times I played video games were like tripled just because I wasn't doing anything else. Um, but also, I didn't realize that there's a lot of jobs that, you can't do remotely. I'm fortunate enough to where like my dad, yeah, I mean, to this day, he still does his job right in his office behind my room. Um, but like other jobs, like the job I'm working at, with that like kind of require like being physically like labored and like attending a place. A lot of those jobs shut down because of COVID and like not being able to social distance right or anything. And so what then happened was like there were certain governments that were paying people to just stay home. And to this day, um like it's still happening in a lot of places, which I find kind of insane, despite the fact that like right now, October 17th, 2021, we are way safer now than we have ever been before. We have, the vaccines are out and available. And even though, in my opinion, they're not going to guarantee your safety, I mean, they should provide a lot of confidence and a lot of comfort to people who decide to take them. And it just, it feels like the parts of society that still like quarantine themselves and don't work at all and just get paid by the government to stay home, I think that kind of ruins work ethic a lot. It's like, oh, there's a bad situation going on, therefore I don't have to work.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't that sound kind of familiar? Like, oh,
Yeah,
I have the sniffles. I don't really want to go to school. Well, I mean, you have just the sniffles or just a hangnail. I mean, you still gotta go to school. I mean, that's just not how it works, just because like a little problem is in our path, that doesn't excuse us from being able from like actually having to come up with a solution to that problem. It's also like paying like a bill or something in your house, uh, just because let's say for example, someone puts your rent bill, like slides it under your door, and then someone breaks in your house and steals it. And you're like, oh, well, it's not there, so I don't have to pay rent this month. It's like, no, I mean, you still have to pay it. So I don't know. That's just kind of like the mindset I was going in. But before I go any further, is there anything else you guys would want to chime on with that in terms of like work ethic and how COVID-19 really affected this?
Um, I think that a lot of people are taking advantage of the situation right now. It's since the government is paying people who are getting COVID, they're paying them their wages that they would have had if they didn't get sick. Because it's you have to take a 2 week quarantine if you get COVID. So I can totally understand the government paying people who have to take the quarantine. The problem that I have is that there's a lot of people that are taking advantage where it's almost like they want to get COVID. They're trying to get it so that they can get that 2 week free pay. And that's why there's such a huge shortage of shortage of workers in
Mhm.
the United States right now. And I don't even know if it's just the United States. I think it might be all around the world where there's just so many people that just aren't working because they get paid the same amount not to work as if they were working. Some people are even making more money not working and just getting the governmental benefits than they would if they were working their normal job. So I just think that there needs to be a way to encourage people to work even through this time. And I don't know what that way of encouragement would be, but there just needs to be a way to encourage people to work.
I think, kind of to answer your question on encouraging people, right now there's a lot of jobs where minimum wage is like 15 an hour at this point.
Well, it
Like
depends on where you're
in
at,
most,
but yeah.
well, depending on where you're at, but where we live, I don't think there's any job that pays less than like $15 an hour. And, that's just simply because the demand for workers is at an all-time high right now. And and it's going to be like really hard uh to just maintain a good work environment if we're like constantly having to like dangle all these benefits and everything. I mean, there's like a lot of jobs right now. I mean, like it's kind of a double-edged sword, if you will. Like with at least my job, since there's not as many workers at my job, the work is a lot harder, but I am getting paid like a lot more than I would if there weren't as many workers, because that's just kind of how it works. It's like the whole supply and demand thing with that we did in our government class last year. Think of like the 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 supply is like the amount of no, like the demand is like the amount of work that needs to be done, but the supply is like low, like the amount of workers are low.
Yeah.
And there's even like more benefits to just than just being paid like a higher wage. There's things like tuition reimbursements, which I'm kind of taking advantage of right now because I'm based. So right now I'm going to school at my local community college for free, which is really nice. And there's people get help are even like getting health insurance from their jobs way sooner than before. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question on how are people being encouraged to work. It's just that a lot of people don't see that as enough encouragement to go back to work because clearly we are still short-staffed in too many places around the area.
Yeah, Carlos, just like to your original question, my 2 cents is that I think that this is just like dragged on for way too long. And I think the reason it's been dragging on partly is because of people's motivation of how like easy kind of things became. And like it's interesting to look at how society will change after COVID. Like I'm sure that like a lot more things will be on Zoom. I'm sure that like a virtual learning will be like imposed a lot more in college and stuff, and like classes that like virtually be available. Um and I think honestly like the time in which like things could have started to go back to normal a little bit was once they were able to like get testing much more like available, because like remember there was like that shortage of tests and it was hard to get people tested. Like
Yeah,
I
for
think that
sure.
like
Yeah.
once you could like know if you had COVID or not, that's like the excuse that you can like go home, right? And then once the vaccines came out, and like again I agree, like vaccines do not guarantee safety, but like
Mhm.
but like even that, like when that started to come into effect, I mean, people should be back to work normally now, in my opinion. Like I think like things should kind of be back to normal, like whether you're wearing a mask or not, like things should be back to normal. Um, and I think that people use COVID as an excuse still because they found that like living at home was a much enjoyed it more than having to come into the office, but they're still getting paid the same a lot of the times, when they go on those breaks and stuff. So I mean, I don't really know whose fault it is necessarily, like the government's or the people's, but like Oh, I mean, what would you guys say? Would you say it's the government's fault for the most part, or the people's fault?
I think it's kind of both a little bit because governments are like, I mean, I can understand paying people who don't have to like go, who like can't like actually go to work, but I feel like there needs to be a point where they kind of need to dial that down a little bit or make the pay not as much, but just enough for them to get by for a couple weeks. Because I mean, if what you said earlier, Micah, is like there are some jobs where like people get, potentially get paid um more by their governments than they do their actual workspace or office or whatever. It's kind of like people are just too quick to choose the easy way out instead of just kind of valuing hard work. And I don't know if I've said this in my last podcast or not when we talked about problems with society, but I think I did say something in the lines with like, hard work is a good thing. It produces a lot of character, personal growth, and leadership. And I think, I mean, for me, without hard work, I mean, I wouldn't be the person I am today. And immediately the first thing I think of is our last soccer season, um, with practices and stuff. I mean, I remember how hard it was going through, Tinkum time, what we called it at the time, and just countless runnings and burpees and push-ups and just grinding through that hard work, and that kind of got me in the mentality of yes, it does kind of suck going through it, but it's not gonna last forever. Hard work isn't 24/7. So when that hard work is immediately over, you feel a great sense of fulfillment, accomplishment, and just more, it's just a huge confidence booster for you. Like I know, when I go to like after I'm like nowadays after I'm done with a really hard shift of work, instead of like going home in my, freshman sophomore year mentality, oh, that was too hard, I never want to do this again. I'm more or less right now like, wow, that was like super difficult, but I prove myself that I'm able to deal with this situation. And if I'm able to deal with that situation, who's to say I can't deal with another hard situation in life?
I think like you talking about hard work, like I agree, like how hard work pays off, and like it's such a good thing to see. It's just that people don't do it because it's just uncomfortable. It's kind of uh it's like eating healthy, for example, right? Like if you wanna lose weight or if you want to gain muscle or whatever, like you decide you're gonna eat healthy, but eating healthy is so uncomfortable. And even though you talk about all the effects of like feeling better, like looking better, all these things, and like how hard work's great, how eating healthy is great because of all the effects, people don't want to go through the work of it because it's so uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. The term I just came up with is right now is people are more quick to get immediate temporary pleasure at certain points of time instead of, a long haul of actual hardworking stuff, whether if it's, proper dieting or like a really tough job like construction or package handling or whatever. And like being able to see in the future instead of just kind of being caught up in their own world, like, I'm gonna just have this pleasurable thing right now. I want to eat those Oreo cookies right now and just feel that, taste of pleasure in my mouth rather than eating that salad. Um and despite the fact that it's not nearly as tasty, it's gonna benefit me in the long run. um, I hope that makes sense what I
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and
think.
to try to bring this back around to what we were talking about originally with, COVID and people um, wanting to stay home rather than working. Um, I just don't really see why people would have an incentive to go back to work because, you get paid the same amount just to stay at home. I mean, I wouldn't be able to stay at home and just get paid the same amount because, I didn't have a job before COVID, so I don't get unemployment benefits like other people do. But if I did get sick for 2 weeks, I still would get, the quarantine. Um, I don't even know what's called, reimbursement maybe. But I do know that the reimbursement doesn't usually come until tax return, so no one's really getting their money for being sick right now. So that's kind of an incentive for people to go back to work. But I don't know. It just seems like there's no real solution to try to get people to work more until we get rid of the COVID unemployment benefits, which I don't really want to do because there are people still getting sick from it. So it's just kind of a
Mm-hmm.
lose-lose
Right. Like I think
situation.
that's a good thing, honestly. I mean, like people that are actually genuinely sick, especially like older people that are still working, they can't go back to work, but some people really need that money for
Yeah.
their lives. Like I think it's a good thing, but I think that was just not good as the abuse of that thing that we're given by the government.
Absolutely. I mean, abuse in any way, shape, or form, is, not good whatsoever. And right now, I mean, obviously there's the typical like drug and alcohol abuse, physical abuse with like relationships and stuff. But right now, I think the most common one and the one most, at least the one most talked about right now, um, is the abuse of just taking advantage of, I have COVID, please pay me, and like purposely like trying to like get COVID or say that you have COVID or whatever. Like I honestly like don't know how far it goes in terms of like getting like money from COVID. I think you have to like actually have a positive test for COVID so that you can officially get reimbursed with that. But even then, like I'm sure there have been many, many people who have purposely tried to, have a COVID party or whatever, and then they get themselves quarantined and then get paid during that quarantine
Honestly,
instead of
most of the time, if you're just sick, you can get quarantined. Like you don't even
if it not
need to
even if it's not
have COVID.
COVID. Yeah.
I'm just like actually just like looking at my college right now, and I know that if you're just sick in general, you can. I mean, you're not getting paid necessarily, but like you can
Mhm.
quarantine, and there's like these like they have like services like they'll like bring you food to your dorms if you want to quarantine and stuff like that. And like
Yeah.
people can have that if they're just sick. They don't have to necessarily test positive for
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not getting, I mean, I think that's actually I actually kind of like what you said right there. Even though you're sick, you still want to keep other people safe, and like other people are willing to do that with you without having to be in like close physical contact with you. So I kind of liked what you said back there with like, people bringing food to your door, that's something that's been, I mean, I'm sure there are still like people who are there are of course multiple people who still quarantine to this day, ordering from like DoorDash or whatever, you don't have to like there's not much physical contact needed or anything, you just pay
Right.
your fee and then they just drop the food off at your door, knock on your door or ring your doorbell, and then you open your door and there's no one there. You can't get anyone sick, pick up your food, and you're still able to support yourself. I think, yeah, I do kind of like that point you bring up.
I just want people to. I hope people realize that we're not saying that quarantining is a bad thing for work and getting benefits from it's not a bad thing for the listeners. We're just saying
Absolutely.
that abusing it and taking more time off than you need is uh, is a problem that you
Yeah.
know
Exactly.
people shouldn't be
Exactly.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that you're clarifying that because we I the last thing I want when we talk about social issues is to like get cancel cultured or anything.
Well, I
Even though
just don't want.
we're kind of too small to get cancel cultured. But but yeah, I know what you mean, Micah. You don't want people to get the wrong
Yeah,
impression
I don't want people to think
of
that
us.
these guys are saying that if you're sick you should still go to still go to school or work. But no, I mean, if you're sick with anything, not just COVID, then stay home.
Like,
Don't get everyone else
wrong.
sick. But don't
Yeah.
take advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I support. I mean, that's kind of how it's gonna all end. Is people actually just quarantining when they're sick? I think it's the abuse of that is the problem. When people quarantine when they're not sick to get the benefits. But I mean, I encourage people. If you're sick or if anything, quarantine is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a really good thing. It's something that should be done.
Did Legend just dip?
No, I'm here.
Oh, I don't. Your little thing went yellow for a second. I thought you like left or something. But speaking of which, do you have anything else to like kind of chime in or any other viewpoint you want to bring up to us about this whole thing?
Um, I listen to conservative podcasts, and what they're saying for like the reason why people aren't going back to work is like because our government is kind of portraying COVID and like um they're making it a bigger deal than it is and kind of pushing the blame on like people that aren't getting vaccinated. And I think that also might be kind of a thing. Like if people hear, oh, not everyone's vaccinated yet, it's not safe to go back to work, it's not safe to resume normal life. When people hear that from like the government and stuff, it can be like they can feel that way, like it's not safe to do this yet, to do like normal things yet, I guess. That's an argument that I've heard a lot, at least.
Okay. So instead of like, I think that's also something Joe Biden has been doing a lot. Instead of taking responsibility for the thousands of mistakes he's already made, within a year of his presidency, the two people he blames the most are the unvaccinated, which I mean, the very high majority of people are vaccinated. I think right now, like over 80% of people in the United States are vaccinated.
Jeez, is
Um,
that actually it?
It's no, it's like
is it
I think
70?
over 60% have got the first dose, and over 50 have got, or no, over 60 have gotten one dose, yeah, and over 50% are fully vaccinated.
I thought I heard from my
Jeez.
dad that
I
actually,
could look it up
yeah,
actually.
yeah, you want to look that up. I was gonna keep
When did
talking,
the
but
uh when did the second dose come out? That wasn't too long ago, right?
Well, no, the
no.
just like the second dose of your vaccine,
To
because you know how
be
it comes in two doses or whatever.
Oh, I
yeah,
Yeah,
got you.
yeah.
Yeah, but there's like the new what's it called though? It's
The booster.
yeah,
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 the
the
yeah, the
booster.
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 I
Um,
don't even know what that is, honestly.
yeah,
I don't
I
know what
don't
it is
So
know.
either, but I've
It's a
heard of people
it's
getting
a
it.
confidence
I don't,
booster for those who are still afraid, despite the fact they already
well,
got their shot. But
it's for the
eh,
next
eh,
variant or whatever of
the
COVID
So
or
it's
something like that.
it's
Delta variant or whatever that was. So what
as
is
Delta
of
it?
variant, yeah.
yesterday, it's 66.3% have got the first dose, 57.3 are fully vaccinated.
That's
yeah.
still a lot of people though.
Huh.
So the
Like,
booster,
and he-
Yeah.
um, with the booster, isn't it something like every 2 months you're gonna have to get a new booster um,
what?
because it's a
Yeah, I'm not
virus,
doing that,
not
but yeah, I
Yeah.
heard
it's a
about that.
virus, not a
I mean, I guess that does make sense because getting one shot doesn't mean like you're good for life. So I guess that kind of makes sense.
Well,
But
it's not like a
I don't
disease
know.
like chickenpox. You can get a chickenpox vaccination once and you're good. But for something like this, since it's a virus, it's always mutating, it's always changing. So you're gonna have to get the vaccination all the time to be like completely safe from it. Which we don't do that for any other viruses, any other cold, or even
Well, I mean, you're supposed to
stuff
do
like
that for
that.
the flu. Like they have a new one every year.
Yeah, well, that's because there's a lot of different flu viruses.
Mm-hmm. But also,
Or is
what was I about to
flu a
say?
virus? Shoot,
I I honestly don't know. I mean, I've never had the flu, so
you never had the
I'm not
flu?
sure if it's. No, I don't think so. I
I
think the
don't think
worst
I
thing
have
You never had
either.
the flu?
Really?
the worst thing I've had is
Yeah.
bronchitis. That's like the worst thing I've
Oof.
had.
Oh,
My sophomore year. and that
I,
sucked.
I like have not really gotten like sick with anything serious, really.
I haven't been sick since February of 2020, and that's when people like started speculating or like joking around. Dude, Carlos has the coronavirus. Oh. And at the time, I had no idea what that was until I started looking into it. I'm like, what the heck is a coronavirus? And then I actually looked into it, and it's just this virus that like apparently it was just spreading wide, and I just had no idea about it. And at first we were taking like the most minor precautions that we could because we weren't so worried about it, and then boom, the shutdown happened. And I still remember, Micah, you made a group chat saying we were gonna work on Operation Barbarossa
Oh yeah.
at Jacob's house, and then your dad freaked
Oh
out
yeah.
and basically grounded you and Seth.
Well, it
Which, by
wasn't
the way,
grounding. It was just
I can
quarantine.
Oh yeah,
I I understand the immediate response. I mean, like, let's say, I mean, I'm not a dad yet. I mean, maybe one day that'll change. But if I were a dad, okay, okay, I'm not saying that as if I'm gonna purposely try to. I mean, if time rolls by and I
Mm-hmm.
happen to,
No, we
what?
got it. We got it.
Yeah, okay,
I
it's
got it.
just
I got it.
legend just finds that funny. Uh, but if I had like a family of my own to take care of in my own house, and I hear on the news and everywhere else that places are getting shut down, there's this virus spreading, and at the time there wasn't a lot of statistics out. It was just a lot of spreading cases that went out. I don't think there were a ton of statistics in terms of like death rates or like death ratio or chances of death or anything, or at least your chances of death, which were super low at the time, that wasn't promoted. The only thing that was promoted through like all news outlets is, stay in your house and, don't leave. That's the thing. And, if I was, a parent, I would probably, like I wouldn't like freak out because I don't really freak out a ton. Well, maybe that's okay. Maybe I do freak out a little bit every now and then, but I wasn't freaked out over the situation when it first came around, but I took so many. I would probably take so many unnecessary precautions even if I wasn't like fully aware of the situation, because a lot of us didn't know what to expect from
That's because
COVID.
it was like an unknown like disease. We didn't know if it was as bad as like Ebola or if it was just like the flu. Like we didn't know what it was yet,
Exactly. So,
really. I remember it being
eh,
a huge deal
mhm.
though. Like what was that kid's name? Is it Kyler? That was he?
Oh
I
my
Yeah.
goodness,
oh
Kyler,
yeah.
Okay, so
dude.
Kyler's dad. Do you remember
Yeah.
that? Like his dad
Yeah.
Yes,
got back from
yes,
some trip,
dude.
and we were all like, "Oh my gosh, if he has COVID,
He
like
came.
the whole
He
school's
flew to
gonna shut
China.
down."
He flew
Yeah,
to
and I
He's
remember
China.
from.
thinking
He's
like,
from China.
I was like, "Yeah, like we're dead.
Dude,
Like we're gonna die."
everyone at the school was like freaking out. We're like, oh, dude. We're like
Well,
in our
cause
little groups at lunch going, oh, dude, Kyler's got the coronavirus, all that.
we asked him like what his symptoms were, and he's like fever and a cough, and we're like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
Ooh.
like, we're dead.
We're dead. Yeah. But like anyway, I think, even, Mike, I was just using that to say, I'm not trying to like throw shade at like your parents or anything for like quarantining you or Seth, because I think that was absolutely justified. And my parents grounded me and all my siblings too, basically. So
Yes.
I think I was in the beginning too, but that's just because it was unknown, kind of, you know. And then like
yeah, yeah.
once we kind of figured it out, we're like, okay,
Mhm.
it's not a big deal, really. I
It
mean,
wasn't until like
relatively.
maybe a couple weeks when my parents and I like were a little more comfortable with the situation, because there was back in the day I used to be like not like a pro mask person, but not someone who was anti mask either. I mean, I'm still kind of like that, but I would personally wear one a lot just because, I was still like trying to take as much precaution as I need to right now. But now, since,
Yeah,
we're in 2021, all of us know what to expect from it now, and I'm honestly like not afraid of this thing. I mean, I
yeah.
don't know. I
Like,
know what were you saying?
oh,
Oh, okay.
I was shortly just gonna be like, yeah, like wear a mask if you want, but I mean, personally for me, I usually don't wear a mask unless, like I'll respect some places they really want me to. I mean, I'll wear a
Yeah,
mask,
for
but
sure. For sure.
like I'm not offended when people wear a mask. I'm like, yeah, wear a mask if you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
Wear a mask.
Exactly. I do, even though it sounds kind of like jerk-ish of me to like, it sounds like I sound like kind of a jerk saying like, I don't care. Like, in a way, I don't care if you like wear a mask or not, get vaccinated or not. You know, I'm not gonna treat you differently or anything. But I do remember, I know Micah and I've definitely ranted at Micah about this too many times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when me, him, and Josiah were at Jacob's house, I think it was during Christmas break actually, and we were playing on Jacob's good old Xbox One, and I was sitting next to Josiah on the couch, and he told me that he had a positive COVID test, and
Oh,
I
I remember that. That was
yeah
like the
I
school year, wasn't it?
yeah that
Oh,
was
Christmas break. Yeah, that's
yeah
right.
Christmas break. And I remember sitting next to him and I was like, dude, I don't care. That I really don't care. And the funny thing was I never got sick or anything. Like even after sitting right next to him, despite the fact that he had a positive COVID test. And the funny thing was Josiah's parents like called my parents, they called Jacob's parents, and I think they may have called Micah's parents too,
Yep.
to ask him if they were okay with him going over to another person's house despite the fact that he had a COVID test, and all of us were like, go for it. You know.
Yeah, we didn't care.
I think like most of us have honestly had it at one point, just to different degrees, and some to such a small degree you didn't even know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't feel anything. I mean, maybe I got it for like a day or two, but I had I mean, to this day, I have had no symptoms whatsoever of COVID-19. You know, that makes me wonder, does does Sierra have her like taste and smell back?
I wonder what she's doing. I should check in with her. I haven't talked to her in forever.
Uh,
She wanted. See,
I know
she.
somebody else though that hasn't had it for like quite a few months though, like as long as Sierra.
yeah. You guys remember that giant COVID wave we had at school from like November to December pretty much when people were getting contact traced, and I like, yeah, Micah, me and you got contact traced because
Yeah.
of Joel.
Friggin' Joel.
And no, I love you, Joel, if you're listening, but I don't know if you are. But yeah, like we got quarantined, and we weren't like worried or anything because like they let us know like a week late that we were quarantined, which was
Yeah.
so like weird. Like I
I'd
was
already
thinking to
been.
myself, like the damage has already been done. I feel like if they let us know like a whole week late, and I wasn't sick or anything, so I felt just fine. But of course, we took that opportunity to just stay home and play some Friday the 13th, the game
Yes,
instead.
that was nice.
I
That was,
think Blake got me quarantined. It was sweet, honestly. I enjoyed it.
dude. I still remember I went on Mr. O'Rourke's like Google Meet or whatever, and like all you guys were like telling me to turn on my webcam. I really didn't want to because I still had like that really tired morning look on my face since I had just woken up, and everyone was just going ham on me, and I turned the webcam on, so I turned it on for like 5 seconds and then. But then, and like our school took so much precaution and like throw it in not necessarily mask mandates, but like social distance mandates. Like I still remember in the conference room, only like 4 or 5 people could sit at that conference room table without being like socially distanced. For the long for what felt like way too long. But then it's like all of a sudden after Christmas break, like COVID was just non-existent anymore. Like no one was like wearing any mask or anything, and I don't even know if the vaccine. I don't think the vaccine was even
No,
out at the
well,
time.
the reason why I got so lenient is because Gianforte became governor of Montana, and he lifted all the
Yes,
restrictions.
sir. our good man Gianforte
And no
coming in
kids were like
clutch.
listening to mask mandate in general, just because of our school.
Yeah,
People in it.
our school was probably the most was definitely one of the more rebellious ones in terms of
Just
like the
super
COVID mandate.
conservative. We
Yeah,
like almost every kid in there. I mean, there were a couple, but we were almost all pretty conservative.
yeah, pretty much. And even it was definitely good to get somewhat back to normal. I think we mostly went back to normal like during the second half of the year. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think
and
we weren't
it's
socially distanced or anything.
yeah, no, and I still remember there was this one random day when we were kind of in the middle of that phase where like COVID wasn't none of us were concerned about COVID at the time. And Mrs. Hanley after one of our classes like just like asked us to like wear a mask or something, but like I think I threw mine away like a month like a long time ago, and so like I technically couldn't wear one even if I wanted to, but I don't think any of us like listened to her. But I don't know if it was like just her wanting to say that or if that was like the principal telling the teachers to tell the
I'm
students.
sure it was the school.
I'm because I don't think yeah, it just didn't seem like something she would like personally do. It seemed like a last minute, oh hey, wear a mask by the way. But of course none of us did and none of us needed to. So we were all fine. And it was definitely better to have kind of a half of a first year because the first half of the year like honestly wasn't that great because of all the weird COVID stuff. But at least we had the second half of the year. That's definitely better than what the class of 2020 had because they had a normal like first half of the year and then their second half of the year was just like really horrible and like yeah, I can't imagine like how bad that would have been for them. I think they still like got a senior trip and all, but like all the other trips and stuff were canceled. Like so like a lot of the other fun stuff
Yeah.
was all canceled and stuff.
Um, well, we've been going here for probably, it's been over an hour and 10 minutes, I think, so we could probably
Yeah.
wrap it up, unless anyone has something else they want to talk about.
No, I think that's all the stuff we talked about. I mean, honestly, I feel like we've just been doing a little more like rambling and stuff about school and how COVID affected the school now, but
It's all
yeah,
about
that
like society and government, pretty much. We were talking about problems in that for a while, and then kind of like went
yeah.
into like other parts of government.
Yeah, for
Good podcast.
sure.
It's good.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun to do. So, Micah, do you think this concludes our Problems with Society series, our little mini series?
Well, I think, yeah, we've talked about, in both episodes, we talked about it until, we couldn't really think about very much more to talk about, so I think that, doing pretty good with this one, so I think that we might have another audience-based voting to figure out what we do next. But yeah, I think for Problems with Society that we should be, this should probably be it.
Yeah, and shameless plug, of course. If any of you guys listening have any any stuff that you want us to talk about, just I think Micah will probably put up another poll on his Instagram and we can
Probably,
get
yeah.
more in. I know we definitely had there were definitely some more topics that you guys wanted us to talk about. Caleb wanted us to talk about Star Wars lore, which I really wanted to do. And like Daniel Shawback wanted us to talk about Joe Biden, even though we kind of talked about him a little bit today. But yeah, like any more suggestions you guys have, just DM, Micah or me and
Well,
or like
either
put it
either
in a poll.
yeah, either participate in the poll or just DM me before the poll ends, and we'll put your suggestion up and have it up for a vote by the
Mhm.
audience. And Ryan won last time. That's why we're talking about Problems with Society. So, and if you want to be a special guest too, DM me on Instagram or Carlos, and we're happy to have special guests. We love special guests.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that'd be a
We're
special thing.
planning on thank you Ryan for coming on. Thank you Legend too for coming on. It was
Yes.
definitely like so much more fun to talk about social issues with you guys. It was definitely a lot more interesting than it would have been for just me and Mike, for
Yes.
sure.
Well,
Yeah, man.
let me know if you guys want me back on anytime, and I'll be happy to come back on and talk if you guys have any issues. I don't know anything about Star Wars, but other stuff.
No, that's all good. All right. All right. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. I think we're gonna end it right here. Don't forget to subscribe to the Apathetic Rebus.
Yep,
Don't
like and
forget to
subscribe on Spotify
s-
and on YouTube.
Smash that like button.
Yes,
Smash
sir.
that
Leave
like
a good
button.
review.
Yes. Leave the comments. We love the comments too.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, have a good one. All right, bye.
Yep.
All right, I stopped
Nice.
the recording,
Nice.
dude.
Yeah, man. Legend, I literally could not. Like, every time you talked, I was like,